Today, we're going to journey back in time to check out one of the ancient world's most incredible creations, a massive, brilliantly blue gateway that was the front door to the greatest city on Earth. This is the story of the Ishtar Gate. Seriously, just think about that for a second. What does it actually take to build something that can survive empires, wars, and literally centuries buried under sand? Well, to get the story of the Ishtar Gate, we first have to meet the guy who dreamed it all up. So, who was the mastermind behind this whole thing? Well, it was all driven by one of the most powerful rulers of the ancient world, a king with a vision to build a city that people would talk about forever. King Nebuchadnezzar II wasn't just some military general. He wanted to show off his power in a different way, through architecture on a scale that nobody had ever even imagined. Get this, he was so proud of what he built, he literally had his name stamped on the individual bricks. And this guy had a long and really impactful reign. He took the throne way back in 605 BCE. Then, about 30 years into his rule, around 575 BCE, work started on his masterpiece, the Ishtar Gate. His vision was going to shape this city for decades. So what kind of city needs an entrance this epic? Let's take a quick tour of Babylon, the capital of his massive empire. Babylon was a total marvel. It had this double wall system that was so thick, people said you could race chariots on top of them. The huge Euphrates River flowed right down the middle, and its streets, they were laid out in a grid, kind of like a modern city. For its time, it was hands down the biggest, most advanced city in the world. And here's the thing you have to remember. Nothing in Babylon was an accident. Every single wall, temple, and street was designed to send a crystal clear message. This city is powerful, it's rich, and you better believe it's protected by the gods. And that brings us right to the main event, the Ishtar Gate, which served as the grand entrance to this unbelievable city. Just try to imagine you're a traveler back then approaching Babylon for the first time. The very first thing you'd see is this towering, shimmering blue gate. It was basically psychological warfare and breathtaking art all rolled into one. It was designed to absolutely blow your mind. You see, the gate had two very clear jobs. On the one hand, it was a fortress, a key part of the city's defenses meant to intimidate enemies. But on the other, it was a gigantic tribute to Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, basically telling everyone that this city had divine protection. Okay, now we get to the really cool part. How did they actually build this thing? The technology they were using was seriously advanced for its time. The Babylonians had this process down to a science. First, they'd mold each brick by hand from clay, then they'd fire it in a kiln to make it super strong. After that, they'd paint on a special colored glaze, and then, and this is the key, they'd fire it again to bake that glaze into a hard, glass-like coating that could handle the weather for centuries. So what about that famous blue color? Well, the secret ingredient was cobalt, a really rare and expensive mineral. Using so much of it was just a massive flex, a huge display of wealth. It'd be like building a skyscraper today out of a precious metal. And how did they hold it all together? Not with regular mortar. They used something called bitumen, which is a natural, sticky asphalt they found in the area. You can basically think of it as an ancient superglue that made the whole structure incredibly solid. But the gate wasn't just a wall of blue. It was covered in rows and rows of amazing animals, and each one told a part of the story. The lions, they represented the goddess Ishtar. The bulls stood for Adad, the god of weather. And then there was the Surush, this awesome dragon-like creature that represented Marduk, the supreme god of Babylon. And we're not talking about just a few carvings here and there. No way. There were around 575 of these detailed, molded brick animals covering the gate and the walls leading right up to it. The scale is just, it's mind-boggling. These animals weren't only on the gate itself. They also lined the walls of a grand street called the Processional Way. During big festivals, like for the New Year, priests would carry statues of the gods right down this road. It would have been an absolutely unforgettable sight for the thousands of people watching. But, as we all know, empires don't last forever. So what happened to this incredible city and its famous gate? Well, for thousands of years, its story was pretty much lost to time. After Nebuchadnezzar died, his empire started to get weaker. In 539 BCE, the Persian Empire conquered Babylon, and the city's golden age was officially over. Now look at that massive time jump on the screen. It wasn't until 1899 that archaeologists even started to dig up the ruins. For more than 2,000 years, one of the greatest wonders of the world was just a legend, totally buried by sand and time. People knew the stories, but the city itself had completely vanished. When an archaeologist named Robert Koldewey finally found the gate, it was smashed into thousands of pieces. The recovery was this epic task. His team had to carefully collect and reassemble countless fragments of glazed brick. It was, quite literally, like solving the world's heaviest and most complicated jigsaw puzzle. And this is the result of all that incredible work. Now, the original gate in Babylon was actually even bigger, but the stunning reconstruction you can see today in Berlin's Pergamon Museum. It stands 47 feet tall, and it's built from the very same bricks that Nebuchadnezzar's workers made all those centuries ago. It's not a gateway to a living city anymore, but it is an amazing window into our ancient past. Which really leads to one last thought. The Ishtar Gate was built to send a message of power and permanence that would last forever. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? What buildings or monuments from our own time will still be around, and what story will they tell about us 2,500 years in the future?